When you don't need her to feel whole, something important shifts in the way she experiences you. The emotional pressure that often exists beneath the surface quietly disappears. She no longer feels like she has to carry your happiness, your confidence, or your sense of direction. And that absence of pressure creates emotional safety. Emotional safety is not about comfort or predictability, it's about freedom. When a woman senses that your emotional stability doesn't depend on her behavior, she relaxes. She doesn't feel watched, evaluated, or responsible for keeping you steady. Instead of feeling like she has to perform a role, she feels free to simply be. Needing someone creates a subtle weight. It shows up in tone, timing, and expectation. Even when unspoken, it communicates. If you pull away, I fall apart. And no one feels attracted to being someone else's emotional anchor. Attraction thrives when both people are standing on their own. When you don't need her, your interactions become lighter. You're not reading into every message or reaction. You're not looking for reassurance. You're present because you want to be, not because you're afraid to lose her. That emotional neutrality is grounding, and grounding energy is attractive. She feels this difference immediately. Conversations feel easier. Silences feel natural instead of tense. Distance doesn't feel like a threat, it feels like space. And in that space, her nervous system calms. She no longer feels the need to protect herself from emotional responsibility. This safety allows her to open up authentically, not because you demanded it, but because the environment supports it. When a woman feels safe, she shares more, invests more, and expresses herself more freely. Safety invites curiosity, and curiosity leads to connection. Most men try to create safety by being available, agreeable, or constantly present. But real safety comes from emotional independence. It comes from knowing you'll be okay regardless of the outcome. That confidence can't be faked, it's felt. When she realizes you're choosing her, not clinging to her, the dynamic shifts. She's no longer managing your emotions, she's experiencing you, and that experience feels calm, strong, and attractive. The paradox is simple: the less you need her, the safer she feels with you. And when she feels safe, attraction has room to grow. Stand complete on your own and let connection be a choice, not a requirement. When you don't need her, your life naturally has depth, direction, and movement beyond the relationship. You're not waiting for her attention to feel alive. You're already engaged in your purpose, your growth, and your own rhythm. And that independence does something powerful in her mind. It triggers curiosity and respect. Curiosity is born when something isn't fully accessible. When your world doesn't revolve around her, she starts to wonder where she fits into it, not from insecurity, but from interest. She senses that you have options, momentum, and a sense of self that existed before her and will continue with or without her. Respect follows quickly after. Emotional independence signals strength. It tells her you're capable of standing alone, making decisions, and handling life without leaning on someone else to stabilize you. That self sufficiency creates a natural hierarchy of attraction, not through dominance, but through grounded presence. When a man needs a woman, his attention becomes predictable, his availability becomes constant. There's nothing to discover because everything is offered up front. But when you're self directed, your attention becomes valuable. It's given intentionally, not automatically. This doesn't mean playing games or withholding. It means living fully. When you're engaged in your own life, your time is limited, your energy is focused, and your presence feels purposeful. She feels that difference. Your attention feels earned, not assumed. Curiosity deepens because she's not the center of your emotional world. She's invited into it. And invitations feel better than obligations. She begins investing emotionally not to keep you, but to be part of something that already exists. Respect also comes from consistency. You don't change your behavior based on her mood, her distance, or her approval. That steadiness makes you emotionally predictable in the best way, not boring, stable. A man with a full life doesn't chase attention. He responds when it aligns, he engages when it feels right. And that selectivity creates contrast. She notices when you choose her because she knows it's a choice. This combination of curiosity and respect fuels attraction naturally. There's no pressure, no manipulation, just a grounded sense of self that invites her closer. When you don't need her, you become interesting without trying. And interest is the doorway to attraction. When a woman senses that you don't need her, something counterintuitive happens. She begins to invest more, not because she's afraid of losing you, but because she realizes your presence in her life is optional. And what's optional but valued is far more attractive than what's guaranteed. When someone feels needed, they feel pressure. When they feel optional, they feel desire. Needing someone creates obligation. Choosing someone creates attraction. That distinction shapes how she engages emotionally. If you're okay with or without her, she doesn't feel responsible for keeping you stable. She doesn't feel like the relationship exists to meet your emotional needs. Instead, she feels invited to contribute because she wants to, not because she has to. This mindset shifts how she shows up. She starts initiating more. She invests attention, effort, and emotion because she senses that access to you isn't automatic. You're not withdrawing, you're simply not clinging. That subtle difference changes everything. When your happiness isn't tied to her responses, your reactions stay calm and centered. You don't overvalue her attention. You don't chase reassurance. That emotional steadiness creates contrast. She notices that you're grounded regardless of what she does, and that makes your attention feel valuable. People naturally invest in what they value, and value is created through independence, not dependency. When you don't need her, you communicate that you have standards, boundaries, and a life that doesn't collapse without her presence. This doesn't mean acting distant or indifferent. It means engaging fully when you engage and being fully present in your own life when you don't. Your engagement becomes intentional, not reactive. As she senses this, her investment grows organically. She leans in because she wants to secure her place, not because she's trying to control the outcome. Attraction deepens when effort flows naturally, not when it's demanded. When both people are choosing each other freely, connection feels alive. There's no pressure, no imbalance, no emotional debt. By not needing her, you give her the freedom to invest, and freedom is where desire thrives. When she realizes you don't need her approval, validation, or constant reassurance, something very important shifts in her mind. She starts seeing you as emotionally self sufficient, and emotional self sufficiency is rare. Most men give their power away by reacting to every change in her mood, every delay in her reply, every moment of distance. When you don't do that, you immediately stand out. At first, this can confuse her. She's used to men adjusting themselves around her emotions, trying to win her favor, or seeking clarity the moment things feel uncertain. When you remain calm and unbothered, she begins to wonder why. Not in a suspicious way, but in a curious way. Curiosity fuels attraction far more than reassurance ever could. When you don't need her, you don't chase explanations, you don't interrogate silence, you don't demand emotional access. Instead, you stay relaxed and grounded. That communicates confidence without saying a word. Confidence isn't loud, it's quiet certainty, and quiet certainty is magnetic. This emotional stability creates safety. Even though it seems paradoxical, she feels safer with a man who doesn't emotionally depend on her. She knows she can show up imperfectly without destabilizing you. She knows she doesn't have to perform or manage your feelings. That freedom allows her to relax into her feminine energy rather than staying guarded. At the same time, your lack of neediness triggers her desire to earn your attention, not because you're withholding it, but because it's not freely given without meaning. You respond when it feels right. You engage when it adds value. You walk away from situations that don't align with your standards. That makes your presence feel earned, not assumed. She starts noticing the gap between how you move through the world and how most men do. You're not trying to convince her of your worth. You're living it. You're not negotiating attraction. You're allowing it to unfold naturally. This also shifts the power dynamic in a healthy way. You're not seeking control and you're not surrendering it either. You're centered in yourself. That balance makes interactions feel lighter, playful, and real. She can feel that you're choosing her, not clinging to her. Over time, this causes her to invest emotionally. She becomes more expressive, more open, more intentional with her actions, not because she's afraid of losing you, but because she respects you. Respect is the foundation of lasting attraction. When she sees that you don't need her to feel complete, she realizes being with you is a choice, and that choice becomes more meaningful every day. When she notices that your life continues to move forward, whether she's present or not, her perception of you deepens. You're not waiting around, you're not pausing your goals, your routines, or your sense of purpose for her attention. That signals something powerful. You value your own direction more than external validation. Most men unconsciously communicate that a woman is the center of their world. Their plans revolve around her availability. Their mood rises and falls based on her responses. When you don't do that, you separate yourself from the crowd. You show that your life has momentum and she can either join or not. This creates attraction through contrast. She feels that being with you adds to her life rather than becoming the structure of yours. That distinction matters. No one wants to feel like they're responsible for someone else's happiness. When she sees that you're already fulfilled, she becomes curious about being part of that fulfillment rather than managing it. As your focus remains on growth, purpose, and personal standards, she begins to mirror that energy. She becomes more intentional in how she shows up. She communicates more clearly. She invests effort because she senses that half hearted engagement won't hold your attention. Your consistency also builds trust. You're the same person regardless of how close or distant she feels on a given day. You don't punish her with coldness and you don't reward her with overinvestment. You simply remain steady. That emotional reliability makes her feel secure while still maintaining attraction. When a woman senses that you can walk away from situations that don't align with your values, she understands that your boundaries are real. Boundaries aren't ultimatums, they're quiet standards you live by. And when those standards are non negotiable, they command respect. This is where many men make a mistake. They believe that being constantly available proves interest. In reality, it often communicates a lack of self respect. Availability without discernment lowers perceived value. Engagement with intention raises it. As she realizes you're not afraid to lose her, she becomes more invested in keeping you, not through manipulation or pressure, but through genuine effort. She wants to be chosen, and she knows you're capable of choosing yourself first. That dynamic allows attraction to grow naturally without force. When you keep moving forward with or without her, you invite her to walk beside you, not carry you. And that's when connection becomes real. When she finally understands that you are complete on your own, the relationship shifts from need to desire. At this stage, she's no longer responding to tactics, distance, or silence. She's responding to who you are being consistently. And that consistency is what makes everything feel real. You're no longer trying to hold her attention. You're not measuring effort. You're not watching her behavior to decide your next move. You're simply showing up as a man who enjoys connection but doesn't rely on it to feel whole. That inner fullness changes how every interaction feels. There's no tension, no hidden agenda, no fear underneath your words. This is where attraction becomes effortless. She doesn't feel pulled or pushed. She feels invited. She feels like being with you is a choice she makes. She makes because it feels good, not because she's filling a void in your life. That emotional freedom allows her to open up without resistance. When you don't need her, you also don't fear honesty. You say what you mean calmly. You express boundaries without guilt. You listen without trying to control the outcome. That clarity creates trust, and trust deepens connection far beyond surface level attraction. At this point, she begins to see you as a grounded presence, someone who adds stability without demanding emotional labor. She can feel your strength without you proving it. She can sense your confidence without you explaining it. That quiet strength becomes deeply reassuring. This is also where mutual respect solidifies. You respect her autonomy, she respects your independence. Neither of you feels owned or trapped. You're choosing each other freely, which keeps the dynamic alive and engaging and stagnant. Most relationships fail because one person needs the other more. When need disappears, balance appears. And balance is where passion lasts. You're no longer trying to be impressive, you're being authentic. And authenticity is impossible to fake, but impossible to resist when it's real. She doesn't feel like she has to test you anymore. There's nothing to prove. She knows where you stand and she knows you'll be okay either way. That certainty makes her feel safe enough to invest deeply. When a woman feels free, safe, and respected at the same time, attraction stops being fragile. It becomes stable. And that's the kind of connection that doesn't fade, it grows.